Um, Welcome to Tim Tom Talks. I'm Tim in Sydney, Australia.
And I'm Tom in Los Angeles, California. Today, as part of our performance series, we're talking about process. Tim wrote a great article on process, so we're going to let him start talking about it, and then I'll ask him questions. When we do this now, what we're trying to do is add value from the articles we've written and talk about things that we didn't cover within the article. The article link will be in the below, but this is what Tim wishes he would have put in the article.
All the things I could have written if I just waxed lyrical for months. No, I think it's valuable for us to add and bring value, to you, whoever's watching, these clips, really by, I think, sort of expanding, the topic and opening our minds, and also, sort of having a more, just sort of expansive dialogue, because each of these topics, as much as, we're trying to sort of address them as a niche area, the subject matter could just roll on and on and on, and they're very deep and dense, sort of areas. So that's the approach that we sort of took in the last episode, which was on roles, and we certainly felt like that was going to be more conducive, to you.
Yeah, and last time, remember, even on roles, we touched on process because we were talking about the evolution of business. First in the Industrial Revolution, it was about developing processes for manufacturing, processes for people to follow to expedite workflow. And then we had computers. And so the next wave was all about automation. And in the wave we're moving into now that we actually already started, it's about creating adaptive processes.
And I think what we're going to find as well is because, Tom and I, we both have our own expertise and interest, but so many of these topics overlap and interrelate. So you're definitely going to find, an adaptive process is just such a poignant example today that, to just talk about adaptability in isolation is to an extent redundant, and the same for processes. So we're going to keep blending things and always, try and just be conscious of, what can you take out of each episode as you watch or listen, and go and apply it, to your leadership today or tomorrow, and get some, some benefits, some outcomes straight away. So let's talk about processes. Processes are great. The process of making your coffee in the morning, the process that powers the mode of transportation that you take to drop your kids off at school or get you to work or get you to the gym or whatever it is. Processes are now just a complete, sort of unspoken, often unappreciated part of the fabric of the life that we all lead. So to say that processes are a problem, is almost to say, well, we have a problem with life. But I think to an extent that there is some truth in that. And I think the problem that we see a lot, and I experience in my own leadership, is that I think too often we've become dependent, certainly interdependent on process. The challenge then becomes around resilience. If a process is absent because of power's out, or deficient because there's a breakdown, or we overload the process with activity, or with a demand which is outside the sort of the linear nature of that process, essentially it diminishes the utility of the process, and then that causes friction and resistance, and reduces performance. And I think a lot of people, and leaders particularly, large corporates, have become over sort of focused on process as the answer. And we need a new ERP, or we've got to go and work on the back end of our inventory management system, or we need more working capital, so we need to make the pull through from manufacturing to retail more efficient. All of those points are in abstraction true. Where it's not that simple is you're reliant on the people that work within and through the process, and particularly the leaders of those people and processes, to really see the value in the process, to change the way that they think and they do things, and to want to do that. Otherwise, the process actually doesn't deliver the outcome that you want.
I mean, think about, I mean, how many people have overprocessed and how many workplaces have so many processes that you're slowing down the system. And if you're not really evaluating those processes as a whole constantly and asking, do we really need that? Are we double doing work? Whatever we're doing, but there's lots of reasons that that could be a problem, but those things need to be addressed. But not looking at the people while you're evaluating this and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your teams and understanding the people process and what it takes to create a better evolution of work, I think we're losing out on big opportunities. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think to an extent, the sort of the overplacing of faith in process, you know, has come as a result of the success of firms like Microsoft and SAP. You know, we have a fantastic firm here in Sydney called Atlassian, you know, who are doing some really good work with agile, team-based, you know, some virtual productivity, amongst other things. And they're one of the biggest breakthrough, you know, sort of, you know, founded locally firms, you know, that we have here in Sydney at the moment. You know, they're on everybody's watch list. But you actually go and talk to any of those firms, you know, and I know people here at SAP in Sydney, and you know, they will tell you the process is only a part of it, and it's very, very codependent on people. But I think that, you know, perhaps the message that gets taken out to the marketplace when they're, you know, sort of in sales mode, you know, and what the VPs and the board members, you know, and even the middle management buy into is this process, this system, this solution is the savior, and all this complicated culture and, you know, like the subtleties and the nuances of actually leading people, I won't have to worry about that stuff because this system, it can do it all.
Agile is a perfect example of this. Agile, while you have a very malleable, fixed process, you know, that's the whole idea of being agile. You're going to move things around as you need to. The idea, though, is that the people that are running each one of those points and the people that are taking responsibility and accountability at each one of those points, whether it's a project manager, an engineer, a designer, doesn't matter. Those are the people that need to be able to follow through on their work, understand their roles in the process, but also more importantly than anything is add value. How are they adding value to this process, to the people there, so that you can develop a better product?
Yeah, 100%. And I think certainly whenever, you know, sort of I've been involved in any kind of, you know, process mapping or innovation around process, you know, a lot of the best inputs and recommendations and suggestions come from, you know, the people right through the organization. You know, someone in customer service might actually have some feedback about an inventory management system, even though they're not a deep expert in it. You know, they feel the consequences of a process deficiency. Or, you know, a mid-level manager, you know, might have a very, very good view on how their leadership impacts their particular team, but they can also look right across the organization and see a very similar leader working in a very similar way, but getting a different outcome because of some cultural nuance or, you know, a change in, you know, the market side demand in that local marketplace. So I think certainly for me, the action point to take out of that, you know, is around, you know, sort of talking to people as close as you can to the point of impact of the process, where the value is either going to be created or taken away when you're looking for process improvement and process efficiency. And also always try and look at the problem sideways, you know, and ask somebody, you know, in a sales function to give feedback on an operational function, or someone in corporate services or finance to look for solutions, you know, on the front end of the business. And a lot of the time, I think we live in this over silo mentality that the experts have the answers in their domain, and they'll have some of the answers, but not all of them. And those that sit and look in from the periphery, they see a lot as well.
Yeah, I think there's two things that I want to just point out, and that this is probably our last subject, given timing. But it's also what you just brought up is when you're dealing with different processes that need to work together. We'll go back to agile working and project management, change management, and operations. Each one of those are actually different processes focusing on different things and have different goals, but they all need to work together and need to work together very well to produce and to add performance rather than slow performance.
Yeah, and this is it. We live in such a complex environment. In life, in work, everything's interrelated. So any kind of deficit, any kind of underperformance in any single area of a process will have a downstream effect and may well have an upstream effect within that process as well. So just to start to wrap up a little bit now, I think in terms of actionable outcomes, key one is, at least as far as I think I can say we're concerned, don't assume that a process will automatically give you a performance uplift at a team or an organizational level. As the leader of any process-orientated team or a team that works in and through processes to achieve an outcome, maybe start tomorrow by asking your team what experience they would lean on if they were asked to change that process. Would it just be, I do it every day, or would it be, well, we used to do it this way 5 years ago, or would it be, I worked somewhere else, different part of the country or a different industry sector, and we had a similar process, and this was the outcome that we got from that. So I just had to. And then think about your own leadership, and do you use the process? And I had this question put to me last night. I'm sitting here, in the boardroom, in our Sydney office, because I had our board meeting, quarterly board meeting last night. And a big part of our conversation was about the internal processes that we have here at 4i. And that question was put to me: do I use them all with the same orthodoxy and consistency as I would ask of everybody else? And the honest answer to that is no, not all the time, and not enough. And if you're not leading from the front, then you can't expect people behind to follow, right? So I think, honestly, that's an area I can improve in. And I think for most leaders, that's the same as well.
2 tools that I can recommend at the end of this that people can look into if they're not using them yet. Design thinking or systems thinking are good tools for relooking at your process and taking it all apart and then thinking about it with fresh new eyes if you had none of the processes you had before. And also continual learning and how to work with continual learning through processes. I think these are 2 tools that if you're not using, definitely look at.
Yeah, for sure. And again, those are deep topics that we will circle back on at some point and spend some more time in as well. So we'll wrap that there for today. Up next is the difference and the importance of moving between transactional and transformational leadership. As always, thank you for your time and attention. That's it from me, Tim, in Sydney, Australia. I'll see you next time.
And Tom in Los Angeles, California. Have a great day. Enjoy yourself.